that's grounds for putting her under the jail. When is that gonna happen? Hey nerds, welcome back to my channel. As you can see by the title today, we're gonna have a serious discussion, okay? Not happy about it. We're gonna be talking about Haunting Adeline in its recent, or I guess reopened, controversy. But before we get into that, I just want to thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Now let's get into this. The Booktok community has shown their ass again. So for context, if you're new here, I am not a fan of the romance or erotica Booktok community because of the way that they act and the very harmful stuff that they perpetuate with the material that they're reading and the material that lives on that side of TikTok. I have 2 videos going into depth as to why I don't, you know, love the community. I'll put the link down in the description for both of these videos. I also have a very complicated love-hate relationship with the genre of romance when it comes to literature. I have a video about that too. If you want to watch it, it's also in the description. But we're going to be focusing on Haunting Adeline and the recent controversy surrounding it. Usually when I do videos that, you know, cover very harsh topics, I censor myself in the words that I use and I kind of dance around the language, but today I'm not going to be doing that because this is too serious for me to be, you know, walking on eggshells. So if you don't know, Haunting Adeline is a mislabeled quote-unquote dark romance novel written by someone named H.D. Carlton. The book follows the main character Adeline, a young woman who has recently moved into her dead grandmother's house. Adeline finds a diary that once belonged to her great-grandmother, and she discovers that she had a stalker whom she fell in love with. We're already off to a terrible start. Long story short, the same thing happens to Adeline. She ends up being stalked by this guy named Zaid Meadows, and that is the love interest in this book. He breaks into her house multiple times and leaves behind a rose every time he does. This story is a stalker romance, and I am using the term romance very loosely. Zaid also rapes Adeline multiple times throughout the book. Then Adeline quote-unquote falls in love with Zaid and then just, I don't know, fucks off. She falls in love with her abuser and stalker. That's the gist of what happens in the book. And it is being turned into a movie, or at least it's in the process of being turned into a movie. Now that we've gotten that out of the way and you know what Haunting Adeline is, I really want to talk about my thoughts and my grievances I have with this whole situation and how I feel in general. To be honest, there's so many problematic things linked to this book and the people who support it. I don't know where to start. I guess I can start the list by talking about the irreparable damage that this book has done and that the movie will do if it's made. A really big piece of the damage that I'm referring to is how this book has and will continue to harm women physically and mentally. And I said this was mislabeled as a dark romance because it's literally not a dark romance. Dark romance used to mean that the love interest would do bad things for the woman, not to the woman. And yeah, he's a little morally gray, but you know, his heart is only reserved for, you know, the woman he's after. Haunting Adeline is not that. It's been packaged that way, and it's deceiving and just awful. It's not a dark romance, it's a rape fantasy. Zaid raped Adeline to the point of her crying and screaming for him to stop. I will insert the proof here. There's nothing remotely romantic about that. He's using and violating her body without her consent. That is wrong. And what I don't want to hear, what I would not like to hear is, her body was reacting and her body was aroused, so it was fine. I don't want to hear that shit. If that's your way of thinking, you are a monster. I know that's harsh, but how could you have that thought process and deem this okay? Bodily reactions do not equate to giving consent. If someone tells you no, they mean no. And Adeline was raped and assaulted, so much so to the point that she just kind of, you know, said screw it and got used to it, which is awful and sad and very scary when you think about it. Now, I have done research, and I know this is like common knowledge to most people apparently, but I wanted to reinforce my opinions with some facts. It has been recorded that 91% of rape victims are women, and globally every 1 in 3 women are abused, assaulted, or raped. The fact that H.D. Carlton wrote an entire book based off the horrors of being sexually abused and assaulted and then tries to frame it as dark romance, that's grounds for putting her under the jail. When is that gonna happen? And during my research, I've ran into a lot of the supporters' point of views on this very topic, and they love to try and justify this book by saying, well, the story has helped victims cope with what they went through. While that might be true, that does not make it healthy or okay. Romanticizing and glamorizing abuse and violence towards women is destructive. Self-harm is also how some people cope with what happened to them, but that doesn't make it okay. As many of you know, and as I just said, Haunting Adeline is a book that's very popular on Booktok, whereas, you know, romance and erotica is concerned. I want to preface this and just pause in the middle of my rant and say this. I know, I'm fully aware that Booktok is not just romance and erotica and or dark romance. It's all of the genres that side with those 3 genres and subgenres of romance. It is very prominent in that community. But let me get back to what I was saying. It's not a lot of them, but men are in this community as well. Men are seeing these brainless women supporting and condoning this toxic material, and they're thinking that this is okay to do in real life and that all women like that. And that is not the case. Can you imagine what's gonna happen if this bullshit is adapted into a film? The main concern amongst the masses is that this film will result in men trying to emulate Zayd and, you know, do the things that he did to Adeline to women in real life, and the crime cases will skyrocket. And I have to agree. I fear if this book is adapted into a film, we're gonna have another 50 Shades situation on our hand. Now, for quick context, if you don't know, the erotica book, 50 Shades of Grey, about the BDSM and stuff that came out, like, what, about 12-ish years ago? Maybe a little bit more than that. Anyway, when that got adapted into a movie and it came out, there was public outcry, even coming from the BDSM community themselves, and it was bad. You had activist groups boycotting this movie. And if the real life community of which your romance novel is based off of is telling you this shit is wrong and sick, you have a problem. And one thing that kept coming up as I was researching, you know, for this video is that the push from the supporters of including certain scenes in the film adaptation. For example, there's a scene in the book where Zayd rapes Adeline with the gun. I also want to preface by saying this. I did not read this book. I did not purchase it because I'm not giving H.D. Carlton my fucking money. I'm not supporting her in any way, shape, or form. I took the route of watching a video that was entitled, I read Haunting Adeline, so you don't have to. Yes, I went that route because I'm not about to sit up here and give my money to someone who writes this bullshit. So no. So yeah, that's how I know about the plot of Haunting Adeline. That, and it's literally in every video of a person who does not support this movie coming out. So there you go. In the back to what I was saying about the gun thing, The supporters want to see that depicted in the movie. And then the supporters keep coming in and they're trying to justify and defend, saying, well, there's always rape scenes and, you know, all kinds of movies, especially horror, and it's unnecessary, and you guys don't say anything about that. Yes, the hell we do. Now, if you've been with the channel since the beginning, you guys know that horror is my favorite genre to read and both watch. I don't even understand or condone the unnecessary rape scenes that are included in some of these movies. I also don't understand why they make them so graphic. So it's never been okay or accepted. We don't need to see these heinous things being put onto the silver screen. It's just not, it's unnecessary. There is not a single intimacy coordinator on the planet that could make that watchable. Aside from the toxic material surrounding violence against women in this book, there are other issues with it. How about the racism in the first 5 pages of this book? There are Latino characters in this book, and H.D. Carlton paints them as degenerate criminals. It's giving MAGA. It's giving fucking MAGA. Because why do the only Latino characters in your book have to be portrayed and presented as big scary criminals and thugs and shit? Like, what is that about? And then on top of the violence against women and the racism, you have the misogyny and the sexism. From what I gathered from looking at the supporters, like, defending this to the death of them, their vibe is giving a boys will be boys and men are gonna do what men are gonna do. And it sickens me to the point of physically feeling ill. And this is where the misogyny is coming in heavily, and I kept seeing this too when I was, you know, looking through all the footage. There are actual people saying, actual women saying, if you saw a man like this, you wouldn't let him do those things to you, all because he's conventionally attractive. What in the blue fuck is your problem? Answer quickly. First and foremost, Adeline didn't let Zaid do anything to her. He took by force without consent. How many times do we have to keep telling y'all that? And it's so disappointing and scary to see that women that are supporting this want to see violence portrayed against their own group, and they do not care. And they love to say, oh, he's hot, so it's fine. But if he were ugly, that would make it wrong. Your logic does not add up. You're not using... I'm starting to think that the people who support this book and this movie coming out, they don't have critical thinking skills. And they're knowingly, because some of them don't care, they're knowingly contributing to misogyny and rape culture. And let me tell you something, I don't care if this is mean or like harsh, because this is so serious. Yes, it is that deep. If you support this writer and this book and you support this movie coming out, I suggest you seek help immediately. Especially if you are a woman or someone who is female presenting, seek help right now, because you are part of the problem. I have so much more that I want to say about, you know, this whole situation, but I know I might run the risk of, you know, hearing something you already heard before, because I guarantee you right at this very moment right now as you're watching this, there's probably thousands of think pieces on this same subject, and you may have heard some similar opinions. So I'm not gonna run the risk of being repetitive in your, you know, your journey through consuming this type of material, but just know, I do not support this. I do think this is the type of stuff, like the books like these, like made me have a love-hate relationship with the genre of romance. And I found this out too. There's a sequel to Haunting Adeline called Hunting Adeline. Hunting her as if she's prey, because he's a fucking predator. And from what I heard, all that book is her getting trafficked and raped some more. So H.D. Carlton, you did it twice. You didn't write one book about a woman suffering as a victim of rape and abuse. You wrote 2 books about that. And you're fine with that, and you're okay with that. Okay, bro. And for those of you who support this author, this book, and this film, and also for those of you saying, if you don't like it, don't watch it, come here. Do you not realize that this book is contributing, perpetuating toxic material into the genre, along with so many other books like this, and perpetuating violence against women in real life, do you not care? It's like your brain is turned off or something. Like, how can you not care? In the vein of dark romance, and it's not even dark romance. It's freaking, this should have been a horror book. Of some sort. I mean, the material is still trash, but like, to label this as a dark romance is beyond me. And do not come up in here talking about freedom of speech and censorship and this, that, and the other. It's not about censorship. It's about common sense and human decency, which some of you clearly are lacking. Because what argument do you have to back up your eagerness to see a woman get raped with a gun on screen? I'll wait. Booktok has proved my point once again. And like I said, they are showing their asses. But yeah, if you're like me and you do not support this material and you want to do some good in the Booktok community, or just do some good in general, go sign this petition. Okay, link in the description to, you know, stop this movie from coming into production. Okay, go to the link, sign it, because we're trying to get this to stop. We don't need this, not in the media, especially not right now. But yes, I'm done ranting. So that concludes our video for today. If you made it to the end of this video, comment a pointing emoji, because we're going to be holding HD Carlton accountable. Comment a pointing emoji if you made it to the end of this video. And subscribe if you want to. I'll see y'all on the next go round. Okay, bye.